The case of the flick knife in the window. You know, it sounds like something straight out of a classic detective novel, doesn't it? But here's the thing, this isn't fiction. This is a totally real legal puzzle that kicked off in a simple shop window, and believe it or not, it ended up defining a huge rule for how we all buy and sell things, even today.
All right, so picture this. We're in Bristol, England, and the year is 1959. A police officer is just walking his beat, and he glances into a shop window. And there it is, a flick knife, right out in the open. And next to it, a little price tag that says ejector knife, 4S, that's 4 shillings. So the big question is, right then and there, is that shopkeeper committing a crime?
So, I mean, at first glance, this seems like a total slam dunk, right? An open and shut case. You've got a crime happening in plain sight for anyone to see.
Okay, let's lay out the facts. It's October 26, 1959. A constable spots this knife in the window of a place called Bell's Music Shop. The price tag is right there, and here's the kicker. A brand new law, the Restriction of Offensive Weapons Act, had just been passed that very year. And that law made it illegal to offer for sale a knife like this. I mean, it really seems like all the pieces are there, doesn't it?
And yeah, the police thought so too. So the shopkeeper, this guy James Bell, was immediately charged. The charge? Offering an offensive weapon for sale. It really feels like this is going to be a pretty straightforward conviction.
But this is where the whole thing takes a really interesting turn. What if the words we use every day, like the word offer, means something totally different in the eyes of the law? What if just putting that knife in the window, even with the price tag, wasn't technically an offer? This little twist, well, it's what the entire case is about to hang on.
And that brings us right to a really important idea in contract law. We're talking about the small but absolutely critical difference between making an offer and something else, something the law calls an invitation.
Okay, so the defense's entire case was built around this one legal idea, the invitation to treat. So what on earth is that? Well, basically, it's not an offer to sell something. Instead, it's an invitation for you, the customer, to walk in and make an offer to buy it. See the difference? It's just the start of a conversation, not the final word. So let's break this down. An offer is a solid promise. If I say, I'll sell you this for $10, and you say, deal, bam, we have a contract. But an invitation to treat is totally different. Think about it like this. When you see a can of beans on a supermarket shelf with a price tag, that's not the store offering to sell it to you. It's them inviting you to bring it to the counter and make them an offer to buy it.
Let's walk through how this works every time you go shopping. First, the shop puts stuff on the shelves. That's just the invitation to treat. Then, you pick something up and take it to the checkout counter. That is you making the offer. And finally, the cashier scans it and takes your money. That's the acceptance. That's the moment the contract is actually made. And technically, until that moment, the shop could actually say, nope, not selling this to you. Okay, so now that we get this whole offer versus invitation thing, how did the court actually rule? What happened to James Bell and that flick knife in his window? Well, get this. The court found James Bell not guilty. Yeah, you heard that right. Not guilty. Even though the knife was there, the price was there, and a law literally said you couldn't offer it for sale, the court said he hadn't committed a crime. And what's really wild is that the court knew how weird this would sound to everybody. The Chief Justice himself, Lord Parker, basically said, look, I know most people would think it's complete nonsense to say this wasn't an offer for sale. But, you know, the law isn't always about what feels like common sense. So why the not guilty verdict? It all came down to something called the literal rule. Basically, the judges had to look at the exact words written in the law, and the law said it was illegal to offer for sale. It didn't say anything about displaying for sale or exposing for sale. And since contract law had long established that a window display is just an invitation to treat and not an offer, well, technically, James Bell hadn't broken the letter of the law.
Now, this decision might have been legally correct, but it created a massive problem, right? I mean, it basically meant anyone could fill their shop window with illegal stuff, and as long as they were careful with their words, they were in the clear. Obviously, something had to be done.
So here was the weak spot in the law. The original 1959 Act made it a crime to manufacture, sells, or hire, or to offers for sale or hire a flick knife. That's it. Notice what's missing? There's nothing in there about just putting one in your window.
So Parliament got to work, and just 2 years later, in 1961, they amended the law. They added these crucial words, or exposes or has in his possession for the purpose of sale or hire. And boom, loophole closed.
The exact problem that the Fisher v. Bell case brought to light was fixed. If a shopkeeper did the exact same thing today, they would 100% be found guilty.
Okay, so a legal loophole got closed more than 60 years ago. Big deal, right? Why are we even talking about this today? Well, because the core idea from this case, that legal principle, affects pretty much every single time you buy anything.
Seriously, that whole invitation to treat thing is the reason a supermarket doesn't have to sell you something if the price tag is wrong. It's why an online store can tell you an item is out of stock even after you've added it to your cart. All of it, items on a shelf, products on a website, even stuff in a catalog, they're all just invitations. They aren't binding offers, and this old case about a flick knife helps cement that rule for all of us.
So next time you're shopping, whether it's in a real store or online, just remember the strange case of the flick knife in the window. Because that price tag you're looking at, well, is it a binding promise or is it just the start of a conversation? Turns out the law has a very clear answer.